Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, the search for justice continues.
Para sa amin, sakit. Ganito, 10 years. Bata pa ako, walang muwang. Tapos lumaki ako. Tapos wala pa rin. Sana naman dumating.
10 years since the gruesome Maguindanao massacre that claimed 58 lives, 32 of whom were journalists.
Isa lang naman yung hinihingi namin. 10 taon na namin tiniis. Hustisya! Hustisya lang aming hinihintay.
The verdict set to be released next month. Will justice finally be served? Lawyer of Maguindanao massacre victims, attorney Raly Tejada, joins us live. And later, protests in Hong Kong rage on.
It's been more than 5 months that Hong Kong has been plunged into this chaotic and panic situation.
How is the Philippine government protecting Filipinos amid the unrest rocking the city? From the CNN studio in Hong Kong, Philippine Consul General Raly Tejada joins us in the program. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. As many as 200 protesters are still inside Hong Kong's Polytechnic University. Police are urging them to surrender, and dozens did. But others promised not to give up the battle. CNN's Paula Hancock's reports.
Protesters walk through the wreckage of their former stronghold, giving themselves up to police ready to face arrest and prosecution. This is the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. What's left behind, proof of the violent clashes between protesters and police over the weekend. This protester's weapon of choice was a bow and arrow. Happy to pose for photos on Saturday, by Tuesday he is exhausted and walks out to be arrested by police.
So why did you decide to use a bow and arrow within this movement?
We are not a monster, we are not the killers. We just want to protect myself.
The police had said bow and arrow is a lethal weapon, so they may use live fire.
But their guys have a gun, want to kill us. We don't have a choice.
But not everyone is ready to accept defeat. So-called frontliners watch helplessly as others leave. This one tells us he is 16 years old. He says he's been here for 8 days and he's so tired he struggles to keep his eyes open. But he's determined to keep fighting.
We want to stay behind and liberate Hong Kong.
A lot of people are leaving. How do you feel about that?
I think we should keep going and stay. Hong Kong is relying on us.
So for those that want to stay and fight, they have plenty of weapons. This is the main courtyard just next to the main entrance, and there are boxes and crates of petrol bombs still here. We have seen methanol, we've seen acetone, probably taken from one of the laboratories within the campus itself. There's lighter fluid, there are gas canisters, and it's all just casually left here in the middle of the courtyard.
Just a week ago, stockpiles of explosives like this would have been shocking, but a lot has changed in a week. Eric Chung is a solicitor who has voluntarily come to advise those who want to leave.
For those underage, they know that we got to deal with the police, that they won't be arrested, so they can leave. They can return home soon.
Medics stand by to treat those who have given themselves up. Youngsters wrapped in foil, exhausted and sombre, as the reality of the consequences of their actions sets in. Paula Hancock's CNN, Hong Kong.
The Foreign Affairs Department sees no need to evacuate Filipinos in Hong Kong and maintains that Filipinos in the area are, quote, safe despite ongoing protests. About 240,000 Filipinos work and live in Hong Kong. I spoke to Philippine Consul General Raly Tejada straight from the CNN studio in Hong Kong, and he tells us how the government is monitoring the situation. Is there a need for a deployment ban, and what contingency plans are in place should there be a need to repatriate them?
Pinky, at the outset, I would like to inform the public that the 240,000 Filipinos here in Hong Kong
are safe. They are safe and they're doing well.
You talked about the numbers, sir, 240,000 Filipinos living in Hong Kong, and majority of them, I believe, are domestic workers. Consul General, can you tell us how are they at all, if any, affected by the clashes between the pro-democracy protesters and the police?
I would say that they are not that affected because most of them live with their employers, and we have daily advisories telling them where the protests are happening. So they have learned to avoid the places, and they have learned to cope with the challenges that they're facing in Hong Kong right now.
So I guess that's really the way to that they are dealing with the situation. Obviously, Consul General, where there will be protests, those are the areas that need to be avoided by our kababayans over there.
That's right. We are constantly monitoring information about the location and the schedule of protest. So we are always putting it up on our website and our Facebook page. So our kababayans here are always monitoring it as well, the advisories that the Consulate General is putting up. And they are very alert, very observant, and very vigilant about the situation. And I'm very proud of them. Many of them have stayed away and shied away from getting involved from this protest.
You know, these Filipino workers, Consul General, normally, hindi ho ba they get together during their day off, and that would be on weekends. Are they still able to do this, hang out together, sir, in these public areas?
Yes, I can confirm that they still hang out on weekends. They have learned to cope, as I said. They just come out very early in the morning, maybe even 7 or 8 a.m., and they gather in the places where they used to gather. And they just pack up around 3 p.m. or earlier if they feel that there is a need to do so. So they have coped well with the situation here in Hong Kong.
But what about public transport, such as the trains, the MTR? There seems to be some days that there's disruption in the transport services, sir.
Actually, it has become a very recurrent issue in Hong Kong. The protest definitely has an impact on the public transportation system here. That is why they have learned to cope with it by going home earlier than usual.
Maganda pong malaman, Consul General, that parang sinasabi nyo, nasasanay na sila dyan sa sitwasyon dyan sa Hong Kong. But in the past couple of days, sir, we've seen an escalation of violence. Meron ho bang meron ho ba silang sentimiento, any sentiment na sinasabi sa inyo na medyo ngayon mas natatakot sila than before?
Well, meron din po namang nagsasabi na yes, there are some who are saying na affected din po sila sapagkat hindi po sila nakakapag-ikot, hindi po sila nakakapaglibot as usual. Ngunit overall naman po, many of our kababayans here have learned to cope at hindi naman po sila masyadong apektado sapagkat alam po nilang iwasan po yung mga lugar na pinangyayarihan ng protesta. Ngayon po, yung mga naman na naapektuhan kakaunti lamang naman po sapagkat ang mga protesta po rito ay in certain areas and isolated at that.
Have any of them said, sir, that gusto na po nilang bumalik sa Pilipinas? Meron ho bang nagsabi na sa inyo dyan?
Pinky, I had a very extensive dialogue with the Filipino community leaders here. And through that dialogue, I was able to ascertain the sentiments of the Filipinos here in Hong Kong. They are wishing, of course, that the violence here ends. But I would say 99% of them want to stay and continue with their work here.
Meron na ho bang nawalan ng trabaho, sir? Has anyone lost their jobs?
We have heard reports that maybe 3 to 4 people have lost their job because yung kanila employer po may have gone home because of the situation. But this is a very small number. Majority continue to live here and continue to work as if continuation po ng kanilang kontrata at wala pong problema.
As I mentioned, Consul General, this protest is entering its 6th month. Could you give us a number on the Filipinos possibly who have been injured due to the clashes between pro-democracy protesters and the police, sir?
Okay po, I can give you a concrete detail about how it has affected the Filipinos here. We are about 240,000 here right now, and there have been just 2 cases. One is an arrest, which right now is under process in the courts. Number 2 is a Filipino who was affected by a tear gas around Wanchay when she was on her day off. But it was a very minor incident, and she was able to leave the hospital the next day. So out of 240,000, only 2 incidents so far has been recorded.
Can you give us more information about that arrest, sir?
Well, it is. I will not go into specific details, but the Filipino was supposed to be working late, and he went home in Mongkok. He's living in Mongkok. And around that time, it was around September, he was going out to buy some food, late night snacks. But then the dispersal happened, and he was not aware of what was going on. And people are running about. So he had to run as well because he was not sure what was going on.
Right.
And he said that while running, he was caught by the police and processed for this.
So what is his situation right now, sir?
The situation right now, I believe, is getting more stable. There is this issue in the Polytechnic University right now where there are some 100 students who are currently holed up. But overall, the situation in Hong Kong, I believe, is getting more stable.
Okay, what kind of measures, sir, in the event that things or the situation turns for the worse, are there measures in place in case Filipinos need to be brought home?
Yes, Pinky, we have what we call a contingency plan, which I divulged to the community 2 weeks ago to assure them that the government is ready to take them home once the conditions demand for it. But right now, Pinky, there is no a reason for us to bring home the Filipinos, but just to assure the public that we have a means and capability to bring home our kababayans here in Hong Kong if there is a need to do so.
At napag-uusapan, Consul General, ang sinasabing dapat bang iban yung mga OFWs sa Hong Kong. What are your thoughts on this to temporarily implement an OFW ban?
No. I would dissuade people from encouraging this idea of banning workers from coming to Hong Kong because as it is, there are jobs here in Hong Kong. And the employees are quite satisfied with their work, and the employers are still taking in Filipinos in Hong Kong. So there is no reason for us to implement a ban right now.
Could you give us an idea, Consul General, on Filipinos who might want to travel to Hong Kong as tourists, sir, to visit Hong Kong? Would that be a good idea?
Well, right now, the situation is fluid, so anything can happen. There are now, flash protests springing up even during weekdays. So for those people traveling on touristic intentions to Hong Kong, perhaps they should rethink about their plan to coming to Hong Kong. If there's a possibility of delaying it in the meantime, that would be a better decision. Because coming to Hong Kong is a good thing, but the transportation system here in Hong Kong is not as reliable as before because it can be disrupted anytime.
All right. Thank you for that. Philippine Consul General in Hong Kong, Raly Tejada. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
We'll be taking a short break. After 10 years, will justice be finally served to the victims of the Maguindanao massacre? This is the source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned.